Gail, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we have the privilege of coming to you to talk about really very important topics around money. We say money encompasses everything because without the money, really, we cannot get anything done. Recently I've been watching online and I see all my friends are congratulating their kids. Some of them themselves are graduating from college. And I know in order for you to get to that point, in order for you to achieve that major goal, you definitely needed to have done something, planning. And planning is very important. So tonight, we're going to talk about why financial literacy is important. Because I know for me, I don't know about you, ever since I was a child, I was told by parents who perhaps were not financial gurus, but they knew understanding some basic concepts about money and finance would be very important for me to build a really sustainable future. And but the more you know, sometimes the more you need to know, because I know right now it is become increasingly more difficult for even those with copious knowledge about finance or financial planning or financial management to even be able to survive and be sustained in this economy. So tonight we're gonna have this conversation with Curtis. Curtis has been on the show many times, and I love to have him on because he's a financial coach, and he's gonna break down to all of us and help us, all of us, understand why is it important to understand the principles of finance and financial planning. At the same time, too, there's something else that you need to understand in order for you to be able to have the sustainable financial life that you all desire. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my friend who is on tonight, Curtis. Hi, thank you again for saying yes to today's show. And I'm so excited to have you on. Please introduce yourself again for those who haven't seen you. And yeah, we want to have this conversation.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me on, like you said, many times, and I will come as many times as you allow me to. My name is Curtis Chambers, financial coach with CLC Consulting, LLC. And, I approach financial wellness and financial literacy from a slightly different view than a lot of people. I would say, dare say most. I come from a trauma lens. So when I come from that angle, it's not something where I believe like financial planning is the whole solution. There's more to it that undergirds it. And I like to dig deep and we'll explore that probably in the next
Yeah.
30, 45 minutes.
Yeah, Curtis, that's exactly the reason why I felt like you would be the perfect person to have this conversation, because the idea of trauma, and I know I've experienced trauma when it comes to financial matters, and I know so many families have dealt with that as well. So it's very important for me to cover this type of comprehensive to tackle this financial literacy concept comprehensively. So why don't we start with, it's elementary, but you know what? On this show, we say that it's never, the information that we want to convey has to meet the need of those who have never heard it before. So yeah, why don't we start with the idea of what is financial literacy and what is financial literacy? When somebody said, I want to become financially literate, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, when someone wants to become financially literate, the hope is that they're hoping to gain a better understanding of how to effectively use financial skills, things in personal finance, the management skills such as budgeting, saving, investing. So you're hoping that you can get a broader scope of just some of the things that we take for granted. So it's good to slow things down and just cut it down to the bare knuckles. It's the ability to learn different financial skills, including your personal financial management, which entails budgeting, saving, investing.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because I know right now so many folks are graduating from college, and for some people, it might be, let's say, a bachelor's degree, and they think, "Oh, I'm done learning. Now I can go sit down and do nothing else." So is financial literacy something that you do once and then you say, "Oh, it's over," or is it a lifetime journey?
I guess I would ask someone, and my facetious side would ask, would it be okay if I sit next to you if I told you I just showered once and that was it? Like, hey, I already took my shower. I scrubbed really well. Matter of fact, how about, since you said bachelor's degree, how about I showered, from kindergarten all the way through primary school to college, 4 years of college, and I showered, but now I'm all set. I'm not going to
Yeah,
shower anymore because I did it for 15 years.
yeah,
If that doesn't make sense to someone and they're giggling or rolling their eyes, then they should also have that same reaction when it comes to learning in general.
correct.
Definitely when it comes to something like this, because the world pivots, there's highs, there's lows, and we're going through something that was just unprecedented these last 2, 3 years. So you should always be ready to learn.
Yeah, and then I don't think you should become stagnant either, because stagnation usually typically is the reason why so many ended up having old news, like the information that you're holding on to or using. I know for folks who came from my country, many times they, like you say, knowledge of financial products and financial skills. Sometimes the way they used to do budgeting back home is not the same way you need to do budget in this country. Things have changed, or even tools that you're using have changed. So if you are not technologically savvy, you need to learn new things and have kids in your environment teach you new things. So so understanding what is financial literacy is important. Understanding that it's a lifetime learning process. This is not a journey that you do once, it's a lifetime journey. And you need to start. We had talked about that offline, Curtis. This is something that you should start as early as possible, right? Because I know
Mhm.
for me, it started early.
Very early. I was when me and you chatted briefly on the phone earlier today, I was picking up something, a little vegetable dish with chicken at the Chinese store, and it really warmed my heart to see that when I saw who was behind the counter, I intentionally did not use my credit card, even though because I usually use my business credit card, but I
Yeah,
used a $20 bill because it was a young lady behind the counter with her father, seemingly looked like a father-daughter relationship. And what was he doing? Teaching her the business, when to open
yeah,
the register, keep the money here so you don't have to forget, was it a 10? Was it a 20? So
yeah,
that financial literacy in business and in entrepreneurship all wrapped in one was
yeah,
being happened. That's rites of passage. All those things. And like I said, you made me think back to
yeah.
lessons with my 17-year-old and lessons with my 7-year-old. So she was right there in the middle. She looked to be about 12, 13. So it was
Yeah.
awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, having a conversation. I used to tell clients and also friends to start having a conversation from the time they're little, and to make it a family game time, family meeting that you sit down. I remember at one time I had two nieces living with me, and I used to say, okay, this is the bill that I pay, or one of the bills that I pay. Could you manage that? And by learning how to manage like a gas bill, really help them understand a little bit about how you pay for bills and how much it costs every month, why it's gone up, and what you need to do in order for you to minimize your expenses. Turn off the lights if it's electric bills. To lower your thermostat. So many ways, like as you're doing it as something that you're doing on a daily basis, the kids are learning. Because I remember my first job as a staff accountant for a company here in Boston, for a TV station here in Boston. I was a staff accountant. All I was doing was paying bills and managing accounts. And if you
Mhm.
can teach your kids how to do that early on and have them start thinking about money early on, it will really make a difference. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so we just talked briefly about some of the benefits. So what are some of the other benefits of becoming financially literate?
I would say they're numerous. You will be the head of the class. You will be so much you put, because people say time is money, and I agree. So if time is money, just imagine being able to put all that time in your pocket, because of the fact that people have to learn. A lot of people trial and error, certain things, yes, you do have to bump your foot on to learn, but there's other things that I don't need to put my hand on the stove. If I saw you touch it and your hand got burnt, I think we're good. So when you're
Yeah.
financially literate, you get to see other people's mistakes and learn from those. And there's people in my own family and circle structure where I got to see certain things, and I got to see it from a different perspective, things that you didn't do, right? And what the cost was. It cost you your peace of mind. It
Yeah.
allowed you to be vulnerable to be getting scammed. It also allows for
Mhm.
abuse to take place, because a lot of my target audience is people that are either disenfranchised or marginalized or have been in domestic DV situations. And it's not DV all the time. Sometimes it's financial abuse, sometimes it's economic abuse, and that wouldn't even be a possibility if some people that were abused knew of certain things. So it's the ignorance or the lack of knowledge that allows someone to tell you, oh, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Oh, this is what it really is. Talk about paying those bills. You didn't even know what those bills were. So whether someone passes away or your relationship ends, or like I said, it was, an unhealthy relationship, you're kind of either stuck or not knowing what to do because you didn't have some of this knowledge that should definitely be readily available.
I think being empowered is very important. So knowledge is always power. Applied knowledge actually is even more powerful. So the more literate that you are, the more you understand how money works and how money can work for you, and the more you understand how to create your own budget and to manage your own money, you will become self-sufficient and independent and not have to rely solely on somebody else. There's nothing wrong with the reliance on other people, a spouse or somebody else, but you still can be self-sufficient and still have the opportunity to rely. But if you're not self-sufficient and only rely on somebody else, as you said, Curtis, it's gonna be a problem. But I also know that in order for you to really achieve those financial goals, such as we talked about education, and what are some of the other goals that like when you have conversations with your clients, what are some of the financial goals, long-term and short-term and long-term goals that they usually have? And how can you achieve those goals if you don't have the basic financial knowledge?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have a roadmap. You have to know where you want to go, and get a feel for where you are. What's your location on that? You go to the mall back in the day and it would say, you are here, because showing you where Macy's and all these other places are doesn't matter if you don't know how to position yourself opposite Macy's. Oh, it's straight ahead. So, when you know where you're at and you know what your lot in life is, and you're saying, hey, I'd like to get my son and daughter to school. Okay, one wants to go to trade school, one wants to go to a 4-year university. Oh, I'm 20 years away from retirement. I see these 401ks are crashing right now. There's ebbs and flows. I want something a little bit different, or I want to enhance and supplement, or I want to eliminate debt so that I can be debt free, because I have a client that has a spouse that was self-employed. So as he gets older and he's in 70s now, there's no pension to fall back on. So you had to already have a plan to say, you know what, part of our plan is let's eliminate all our debt now so we can start to invest, start to save. So another thing might be a business, speaking of that entrepreneur. So you might want to become literate, because it'll be advantageous for you as you get ready to run a business. Some people bootstrap it with their own money. I'm not here to say whether that's good or bad. I know a lot of people that ascribe to the thought that you can bootstrap your business with other people's money. What line of credit, business credit cards. So once you get your stuff in order, you can start using business credit cards, which is 0% interest for a long time. So you get to just use dollar for dollar to build your business. So having the knowledge on those areas and your personal finances will bleed over into about 4 or 5 other areas easily.
Yeah, definitely. Going back again to something you said regarding credit cards. I know several years, actually maybe a year and a half ago, you came on the show for the first time and we had a conversation. Several of us were on the show at the time. We had a conversation, and it says here, one of the studies that I was looking at, it says from 2000 to 2022, most people have shifted from using cash to credit. But managing and knowing how to manage credit is one of the major components of financial literacy, right? So I know you've helped so many people, and I've been paying it forward. You've helped me. So why is it important to understand this concept of credit? Because you just mentioned using other people's money, the OPM, other people's money, so important. But how do you do it responsibly? And how do you even start if you haven't established credit? I just want to share that, because I think primarily at the foundation of it all, you have to have credit, because credit, to me, let's say cash is king, but credit is queen. And without the queen, a king really cannot do much.
There you go. You said it all succinctly, because that's where we're going as a society and economy. So you need to have credit. I remember when it first came up when I was in early 20s and wanted to, get a vehicle for the weekend, renting. And so I was like, hey, I got all this money, we can put it down. And like, no, we need you to have a credit card. We'll hold 300 or whatever it was. Right. It was just weird to me. I didn't understand the concept. I'm like, I'm willing to give you more than that 300. Here you go. But yeah, same thing with getting ready to move. And I had a few $1,000s for first, last security deposit. And back then, a few $1,000s was a lot. That'd be like 5 months rent And the person was on the other end of the line said, "What's your credit score?" And I was like, "I don't understand what you're talking about. What does that even matter? What I'm talking about with you?" So, or to be young and dumb or naive, you need the credit. It just, I didn't make the rules, but I want to be able to um, thrive within the system that's already in place. And so what it does is allow a lot of, especially on the business side, a lot of businesses fold, Gabrielle, in the first few years because they don't have enough funding. They don't have enough time to get out of that incubation stage. So, unfortunately, they go under. If you had some credit, and like I said, some 0% cards, I can borrow dollar for dollar, give myself time to cultivate a relationship, give myself time to, do what I need to do. And on the personal side, the thing about it is credit is what you need. Credit is essential. And I don't want to say, but it's also knowing yourself. Me and you already talk about mindset all the time. Before I even get to this, I get to a slew of other things, no less than 5, maybe 6 other categories, because when we start talking about financial literacy and enrolling a program, I bring together the psychology of the trauma that I talked to you about, scarcity, our lack, because our people never really had nice things, or maybe they lost something, or because of a divorce, whatever, that scarcity and that trauma and our reaction to it impacts our relationship with money. So I do a lot of work on this side here, and then we can get into that, because I can show you all the tricks and trade. I'm traveling next month with points, from credit cards and things of that nature. If you do it right, you start saving and making money. But if you do it wrong, you can become, 5 figures, 6 figures in credit card debt and feel like you'll never get out from under.
Yeah, definitely. Using it responsibly is definitely the way to do it. And also, when you have stellar credit, meaning good credit, and you've established that, it really helps with savings, because the money that you're not spending on extras,
Yep.
you can save that money. Because I know
Absolutely.
if you have really questionable credit, even your car notes or your insurance will be much higher. Anything that you're gonna try to access will be much higher if you don't have stellar credit. I know
Yep.
I've been there, and I know it's very important that you establish that foundationally, because as you're learning about financial literacy and you becoming more and more financial literate, you have to know how to do it properly. Now, we talked about what is financial literacy, what some of the benefits, and definitely understanding how to establish credit responsibly is one of the benefits, because credit is queen, cash is king, but credit is queen, and you need that in order for you to sustain. How do you go about acquiring skill sets? Because I know for those who are watching right now, they're like, "Ooh, I've been trying to learn." Actually, yesterday, a lady got on the phone. She's been watching me. Actually, somebody referred her to our program, and she said, "You know what? My sister's husband had a medical scare, and he had been the one doing everything, and she was stuck for many months." And she said to me, "Thank God he did not die, because it would have been a worse situation." And she said, "You know what, Gabrielle, the same thing would have happened to me, because my husband takes care of everything." So how do you go about, because she doesn't know how to get started. Of course, we're talking about it. How do you acquire those skills, the financial literacy skills?
Got to use your resources that are at your disposal. First of which is the mechanism that we're on right now. Let's talk money with friends. That's
Yeah,
not a cheap plug for you. It's an
yeah,
essential plug. It's a realistic plug, because this is the beginning, because you might not even know the questions to ask or follow-up questions to ask. So just tuning into something like this. I have lives that I do. I have Growth Thursdays where I meet in person, and I also do Zooms online. And a lot of the stuff and the content that me and you provide is free, because we want people to know. There's
correct.
also a heightened relationship if you say, "Hey, I want you to, I want to take you on, as my provider, and I'll be your client." There's that aspect as well. But before you even get to that point, of using my financial coaching services or coming to you for services, you have free things. I use YouTube, as a lot of people don't think of YouTube as social media. It is social media. It's just not in the same vein as the other things, or pictures and all this other filters and all that crap. But yeah, you use YouTube University. Again, you don't have to take everything as gospel, but at least you're learning like, oh, is that
Right.
true or is that some bunk? At least I have more information from which to operate from. But you need to be on things like this, because we start talking about predators. You start talking about, you mentioned the spouse that may have passed. You'll set yourself up for scam. You set yourself up to be vulnerable to these predators out here. And when you have a sense of community, then that doesn't happen. When you're saying, whether it's an online community, joining a Facebook group, or
Mhm.
joining something like this, and always chatting in the comments, hey, Gabrielle, so you can, because I remember one time we were live, people were writing in live, and then there's people commenting, and there was a back and forth, sharing information. So you want that natural, organic, sense of synergy and coming together. So again, I
Yeah.
will do a plug for my stuff. Everybody does plugs for their things, and these things are essential. Most of that stuff comes at no cost except for your time and effort that you have to put in. This is how you start to learn. I follow people on online, Earn Your Leisure. I just never feel like I'm too much of an expert that I can't learn. So if I can learn more, definitely everybody else can get online and try to learn more by coming to these type of forums.
Yeah, I love you say you're never too much of an expert, and you've said that numerous times on the show and offline talking to me, because I remember years ago, because I wasn't too much of an expert, because sometimes you probably know, but when you are bombarded with life challenges and you're going through so much, sometimes you don't have the time to really think thoroughly. You're not thinking strategically about what you need to do for your next step. So it's very important to take time to, I love to read books, and if you like to read, pick up some books. This is a free audio. I was talking to somebody offline. She said, you know what, Gabrielle? People are so happy with audiobooks. And I'm like, this is an audiobook. You just,
Mm-hmm.
if you drive in an hour,
Play
to,
it.
yeah, put it on your cell phone and listen to your Bluetooth. Just
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to do in order for you to become more and more financially literate. Because at the end of the day, if you think you're too much of an expert to get anything from a talk like this, from a conversation like this, that's
Yep.
when you already lose. Because again, I don't know if you're familiar, Curtis, every single year you get friends and family sending you GoFundMe. Someone
Yes.
just passed, and I would like to do a GoFundMe because he's leaving three children and a wife, and he didn't have insurance. What do you
Mm-hmm.
say? I know personally, I said no can do. I
I
do.
cannot,
Yeah.
because everyone thinks that their situation is unique. And so I've had no less than dozen, 2 dozen of these type of things come, in a succession of like 2, 3 months. So
Mhm.
how can I give of that? I'm not wealthier than Oprah or Jay-Z or what have you. So
Yeah.
get it from them, or you have to do something, because these conversations that we're having now, while whoever's listening to the sound of my voice, you're at your baseline right now. Nobody's dead. At least you're listening to it. So, but when I tell you that and you don't get a life insurance policy because you think, oh, she's just trying to get rich off me or something like that, or some other cultures that don't even believe in it. I
Mhm.
have in my own family, there's people that just they think that if you talk about it, it's taboo. So it's like, oh, so if we don't talk about it, will you live forever? Or if we don't talk about it, will you not ever get into an auto accident? So I got to get past some of those things. And if you can't, that's fine. I won't judge you. The same way when you come back, I always live off this principle that I heard 4 or 5 years ago. Lack of preparation on your behalf does not constitute an emergency on my behalf, because you had a chance. We already know people are paying how much for YouTube TV right now? How much are they paying for all these gadgets and Amazon Prime and audiobooks and things of that nature? That's not to poo-poo any of those things. I'm glad you like it. I love it. I'm just saying that you have the money. We know you have the buying power to buy a policy that's $20 a month, $40 a month, sometimes $50, $60 a month, and that you would have some insurance. Some of those actually gain cash value. You could even borrow from and things of that nature, but you're not in the game. You're not in it to try to learn. It's just that when the time comes and there's the oblique moment, now you want to have your hand out. That's why I just personally can't do it. I'll put your link on the site if you need me to, but I'm not contributing in that way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do the same. I don't contribute to anybody's stories, because I know I've been talking about life insurance. I've been talking about retirement planning. I've been talking about financial literacy since many moons.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 20 years
Pushing
I've been
two
talking
decades.
about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially because I've been gifted with multiple languages. I do it the learning, the education that I got, that I paid a lot of money for. You see,
Mhm.
people are getting congratulated for during this holiday. I would say
Yes,
holiday during the season. Everybody's getting congratulations online. That expensive education I paid for it years ago. They're all over
years,
here. And that
years.
education, I did it in English, and I've
Hmm.
given it and I've translated it in my own native language to share with the people that I'm familiar with. And if that person has not taken the time to listen because they're too busy doing other things and now they're in a bind and they're looking
Yep.
for support, I will not support, because I feel like you can become financially literate as soon as possible. Because again, we talked about the importance of starting early, because many of the products that we just mentioned, especially insurance, the earlier you do it, the better off you'll
The
be.
better. Whether
The
it's
better off
insurance,
you'll
whether
be.
it's for what with 401k, whether it's just a savings,
Mhm.
even though I don't, savings in and of itself, that has no compounding effect in terms of interest, but just the fact that if you just did $20 a week and you forget about it, and oh wow, this is $5,000 or $2,000
Yeah.
or whatever. So just that starting early is always way better than starting later when you learn what compounding does. But it's just a situation where it's a mindset. That's why I said what I said. I come from a trauma informed lens. I'm Tom certified, which is the trauma of money, out of Canada. And I love it because they get into these other things. And some of those other things led those people to do and choose things that were taking care of themselves. So I'm not judging you.
Mhm.
We just need to challenge some of those things to say, if that's working for you, fine, keep it. If it's not, you need to tweak some things. Don't just wait and there's a fire in your home and you didn't even know, you and your family didn't come up with a plan. You don't know where the fire extinguisher is at. No, we should be doing. That's why the budget is there. That's why these other things are there so that you can see, oh
Mhm.
wow, I am spending a lot of money on these subscriptions. Oh, there is some money for me to afford to get a policy. So if you're willing to do that and learn, I want to talk to people when they're right here in their baseline, not when they're hyper aroused because of a fire.
Yeah. So you said willing and able, because sometimes people are willing, but they're not able, and they're not able because they lack education. So that's why it's very important to have humility and to be humble enough to say, you know what, I need to seek help. I need to look for help, and I need to not scroll past a show like this, but I will listen so that I could get the information that I need to get, and I'll share with somebody else. There are tons of podcasts out there. Mine is one of them. And there are many, many, many different workshops out there. And Curtis has one that he's going to share a little bit more. But I just want to say, Curtis, again, you talked about how not to be relying only on a spouse because people could die, right? And people could, for your peace of mind, it's very important that you become self-sufficient yourself. Do not rely solely on a spouse, because at the end of the day, if you do, it could be detrimental, right? Long term for you.
Absolutely. And I heard from someone a long time ago, it was a husband and wife team, both successful independently and collectively in
Correct.
tandem. And what I really liked about their relationship is he said, she's with me because she wants to be, not because she has to be. And
Correct.
so, I took that, you can take it many different ways, but, because sometimes people are in a situation, it isn't just male to female. It doesn't matter the dimensions or the dynamics of it. It's just someone reliant on another for whatever reason. When you can say, you know what, we both have our own. So that
Mhm.
way, hopefully you do know that this person's with you because they want to be, because I definitely can afford my own place or I can afford to do
Mhm.
whatever, but you're doing it because you want to. So I want to make sure I set up my partner for success.
Right.
As Alexa tells me to get my son in the tub. We already did that.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, the idea of like, oh, I'm the husband, and yes, you want to be the provider, yes, you want to be the head of household, if that's the way you want to run your household. But I think it's so important again to have that family reunion and say, this is what we're doing, and this
Hmm.
is how we're doing it. That doesn't mean somebody cannot make the final
Exactly.
decisions for the
Yep.
family, but everybody should be in the
You
know.
should be knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Exactly. That would be like if we're just all in the car, we're going on our summer vacation, and me and you are in the front and two, three kids in the back. And I don't tell, well, let's say you're driving and you don't tell me or the kids,
Where we're
where we're
going.
going. And it's like, doesn't make any sense. We should, like, why is it a big hush hush thing? Why is that, that's that's that dividing mentality, whereas we should be coming together and having that conversation or making the game, who can find this, and play the license plate game, and let's count down the miles and do math. So there's so much opportunity to have fun and learn when you're doing
Learn.
that, as opposed to just sit there and be quiet and because I said so. No, you're missing out on some rich opportunities to teach someone financial literacy, to teach regular vocabulary, just learning and observing, and not having heads down in devices or what have you. So yeah, it's not something where you just keep quiet about it. You should talk about the bill and understand why this happens. And checking account, kids can still be kids, so you can do it to a level that's acceptable, that's not bogging them down, but that's actually fun and interesting, so that they can start to know, oh, I have enough saved up for this. Let's work towards that. So it's also allowing people to not have the immediate gratification, Gabrielle, the right
Mhm.
now mentality. So if I tell my son, we have to add up to this amount of money, I'll match your amount, you know, five of my dollars just for two of yours. And then we get to this number, we'll go here. So because you're disciplined and you have that, it's okay to wait, let's build towards something, then they don't get played and scammed with some of these predatory lending type numbers that say, hey, because you know what interest basically is, it's just a penalty that you're going to pay to get something today that you really can't afford. So you're like, oh, I want that car, my credit stinks, instead of waiting to fix my credit, and you know, whatever the case may be, I'll get it now and pay an extra $8,000 over the life of that car. I'll pay an extra
Mhm.
$200,000 over the life of that 30-year mortgage or what have you. So if you could wait and not have to just have your eyes, oh, I need this jewelry, these sneakers, whatever, right now. It always is a TV. They always make it seem like you have TV ain't going nowhere.
Yes.
So just wait. You have to have that patience. So that's why I get back to the mentality and that scarcity mindset. When I start talking about that as it pertains to trauma, what have you, that scarcity will have you making decisions that you probably in a sober thought thinking mind would not do. So that's again where the work is.
Yeah, delayed gratification is definitely something that we need to learn as we plan in and doing what we need to do. We all have made mistakes, you know. Nobody's perfect, but at the end of the day, if you have foundation, you definitely will be able to get up and start over or continue in your journey. I just want to say that this conversation is very important to me because at the end of the day, if you don't have that basic understanding of how money works and how money can work for you, and by money, we say money encompasses everything. Your discipline with credit, your understanding of why is it important if you are, whether you're single or with a family, that you should have insurance, multiple types of insurance, why you should set up your retirement plan, why you should have, you know, think about buying, owning a home. All these financial products will be available to you if you do the work that you need to build up your financial literacy. But at the end of the day, Curtis, you mentioned that the trauma, and I know for some people the trauma started at home as children, but for many of us who are not thoroughly equipped with understanding and knowledge, we could have done, you know, many of us have done many of the followed many of the principles that we were taught in school, principles of finance, and yet ended up, you know, in a position, in a situation that never thought would ever happen to you. So what happened? What can you do? How can you protect yourself as you're learning about finance, as you're learning about money? What else do you need to do in order for you to holistically protect the things and the assets that you are building?
You need to know what helps you and know what hurts you.
Right.
So I call it my why. So what is your why? WHY. What helps you? What
Mhm.
hurts you?
Mhm.
Because certain things help. Glass of water, breathing, a meditation, you know, a walk, a funny video, building your community so that you have some people to share information with. I just heard something from this lady on this TV program and this gentleman. Is it true? That doesn't mean that person's the end all be all, but at least you have someone to bounce ideas off. Now, two of you can go ask someone or be, you know, doing some research and due diligence. So as opposed to just, because a lot of times when people are in abusive relationships, what do? They isolate you. It's no different than the animal kingdom. The lion or whoever wants to get the rest of those animals away. Let's get this one that might be sickly or tripped or hurt his leg. They isolate. They don't just run into the crowd. They try to isolate. Same thing with abusive, you know, partners. Let's say they never want you with your family no more. You notice how they'll tell you stay away from them. I'm all that you need. Again, so the opposite of that, the remedy to that is having community, having people involved, people that you can say are in my network. And again, watching these programs, learning and understanding that there's no blame. I'm not even going to blame myself. Oh, I'm bad with money, or I have no, I don't own and resonate with those type of thoughts. I have to understand that it could be something from my ancestors. If you study epigenetics, your DNA doesn't change, and I don't want to get too deep, but there's just reactions to things. So what if my grandfather or great grandfather, had something happen to them whereby they had to like really hold this tight, not even take a chance with investing or risk, because that's what worked for them to survive 100 years ago. And then you pass those ideals down to your son, daughter, or whoever who passed it down to me. And so that worked then. That's what you needed to do to take care of yourself then. I need to recognize that this is a new age, a different time, maybe a need for a different approach. So just even studying that generational type of thing. So it could be a trauma that your grandmother dealt with, not even you, but you don't know why you are the way you are. You don't know why your palms get sweaty when someone, is going to offer you the job, and now it's time to talk about the salary. And it's like, why am I getting nervous? Why don't I think that I'm worth it? Why do I have this imposter syndrome? These are the things that we have to be aware of. So having that conversation, being honest, and again, knowing what triggers you in a negative sense. I'm not going to go shopping then when I'm triggered. What helps me? Let me take this drink of water, do a quick meditation or what have you. They're free, they're online. And then we move at that point to get myself into my sober mind.
Yeah, definitely. I know many in certain communities, especially Black and brown communities, or certain groups of people, single female, seniors, they've been targeted. They have been targeted in many situations because they are the most vulnerable groups of people we have in our communities. So that's why if you are someone who is a single female or a senior or someone who's from a marginalized community, Black and brown communities, it's very important that as you're learning about financial literacy and you becoming more financial literate, that you don't do it in isolation. Because I think we mentioned that, Curtis, you have to be part of community. Because I know you said what triggers you. I know in my community, everybody's very secretive. Everything they're doing is in secret. And you don't hear about it until there's a problem, right? So because they're so used to doing things in secret, guess what? Many times they are vulnerable. They have become the most vulnerable to financial predators.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because what happened in 2008? Many of the people who lost their homes and lost all their assets that they had worked for, they had been responsible. They saved money, they worked on their credit, and they did many things that they were supposed to do, and yet they ended up losing everything that they had. And those who were able to keep were those who learned how to fight and learn how to be part of community and gain knowledge. So it's not, I said here, the first line of defense is knowledge.
Yep.
But financially, but the second line is your support system. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So what I was mentioning when I mentioned the community, and having that network you can go to rely on, who's your go-to, who's your natural supports that you can speak to. Don't just wait till something happens and now you hit the GoFundMe. No, let's go have some, fun learning and listening about this type of topic. Let's become financially literate, because I'll tell you what, as bad as 2008 was for some people, it was a discount day for some others. Correct. Because somebody was ready, somebody had the money ready, somebody had the knowledge, they had the mindset. Because if you're operating with that scarcity, that again, something that was based in trauma, no judgment. But if you're operating in that, you're going to say the sky is falling because I see these stocks I follow on Yahoo Finance. You'll see a red day. Oh, this thing must be over. Let me get rid of it and sell it. But when it's really high, you're thinking it's the best in the world, so I'm gonna buy it. So you're doing the exact opposite of what you should be doing. You sold it because it was going low, but then when it got high and everybody else is doing it and you fall in the crowd, now you're buying it. It's like, how can you win? No, when it was going down, when it was a housing crisis, again, some people were just picking up daisies in the field because they had the money, and some people at that time maybe have the knowledge, but they didn't have the finances. That's 12, 13 years ago. That's almost a generation ago in our essence. But now there's going to be other times and other opportunities because people have walked away from their property after COVID. Some people stop paying the taxes or what have you. So there's opportunity. So are you going to see it and be able to pounce? Do you even have the knowledge? But are you going to apply it? Are you going to use your support system so that you don't have to do it all on your own? Those are the questions you have to answer.
Yeah, the support system is imperative. Financial literacy is the key to a better future. I know for me, I invested time, money, and resources I used to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and went to bed at 11. For those of you who think that this is something that's just happening overnight, no, it took many years of hard work. That's why I stand in confidence, knowing that I've done the work and I deserve to reap the harvest. So, but in order for you to reap a harvest, you have to do the work. And when folks come to you, either the predators or those who are questioning who you are, you will be able to stand firm and keep on fighting because you know you've done the work. It's important to be comprehensively equipped. Okay.
Gabrielle, you hit the nail. You're hitting it out the ballpark tonight because you're either going to do the work or you're going to pay the price of someone who has done the work.
Correct.
I'm not wavering on my prices because I did the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Financial literacy matters, but your approach ought to be comprehensive. Do not strive to succeed as an individual in isolation. It's very important that you do it. I know for me, all the years of education at the universities, all the years of blah, 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 they teach you at the universities. So many people are excited because they're getting that diploma today. Let me tell you, honey, that diploma is not enough. You need to come and be involved in your community and get the support that you need so that after having done all the work, you can stand and rejoice and benefit from your hard labor. Because if you don't have that and if you're doing it in isolation, because then again, right, Curtis, you think you know everything because you have that diploma, or you think you know everything because you've done it before, that's when you get taken advantage of. So I would encourage you to really take the time, make the time and invest, because financial literacy matters. So thank you so much for all of you who are watching. This show is a labor of love, and I do it because I know every time I get a call, even if it's one call. From last week, I got a call from this lady and she said, Gabrielle, the story that you told about the gentleman who went on a cruise and he didn't know he had paid for everything. He kept eating crackers and noodles in his cabin. And guess what? I kept saying to myself as I was hearing your podcast, am I one of those people who are eating crackers and noodles when everything's been paid for? You don't want to be one of those people. I'm encouraging you to come out to ask questions and to ask multiple people questions, to listen to multiple podcasts. I know, Curtis, before we leave, actually, you said there's something that you do and you're doing with the city. I mean, is there an opportunity for those who are watching right now to say, hey, I would like to plug in. I like this man. I like his voice. I like what he's all about. And I would like to learn from him. Can they get access to you? How can they get access to you?
The most direct way is to call 617-938-2370. That's my number. I changed my name on the screen here to the website so someone can grab the website. And if you're listening in or here visually impaired, it's clcconsulting.org, clcconsulting.org. There is a couple of events. I was fortunate enough to do something with Boston Public Schools through the city, and there will be others. And so you can plug in and I give you more details on that. I'll be doing something for Juneteenth in less than a month, about 21 days or so. So yeah, just plug in that way so that we can get connected. And CLC Consulting 13 on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook after you click on here, because I'm probably going to like it right after we get off here. So you can always find me there as well.
Yeah, knowledge is power, folks. The more knowledgeable you are. Listen, this show is for everybody. How do I know? As someone who's worked in financial services for a long time, I've been at the doctor's office, I've been at the lawyer's office, I've been at the CEO, you name his office. And many of them are oblivious. They're not aware. They don't know. And many of them, you'll be surprised, the higher the scale in terms of like income level, the more receptive they are. That's how they ended up doing much better, because they're receptive, because they recognize that they don't know, and they need someone who has done the work to sit by them and teach them and show them the way, because they're interested. So I would encourage you to do the same. Do likewise, because it'll be beneficial for you, your children, and your children's children. Generational blessings and legacy. Thank you so much for your time. Have a blessed day. Please tag, share, make a comment. Let your friends know that every Wednesday, Let's Talk Money with Friends is sharing really relevant and timely information that you and your friends can really hold on to and make something out of. Thank you so much for your time.